Hey there everyone, and what an episode I have for you today. I'm sure we've all heard of the world famous museum, the Louvre. Well, it seems that this building may have more going on than celebrated artworks like the Venus de Milo or the Mona Lisa. There have been reports of the paranormal walking the grounds of the Louvre for many years, from an Egyptian mummy and a heartbroken soldier to a queen's assassin. What is the dark history of this Parisian landmark with tales of spirits locked up inside? Let's find out. Records state that in 2023 alone, nearly 8.9 million people visited this 780,000 square foot attraction. Not surprising, as it's the largest museum in the world. The property was first constructed in the 12th century. In its time, it has had many identities, from a palace to a fortress. The foundations of the original castle can be seen to this day within the walls of the museum. In 1190, King Philippe Augusta decided to build a fortress where the Louvre Museum now stands, which was intended to protect Paris from any attack. This effort was expanded on with the addition of towers and walls in 1316. Then from 1364, the fortress was transformed into a palace, acting as the primary residence for the French monarchy. The Cour Carrée courtyard situated in front of the palace was commissioned in 1536, designed to be a more impressive entrance to the residence. Around this time, King Francis I also started work on the Grande Galerie situated along the Seine River to hold the ever-growing art collection of the king. A few years later, in 1592, King Henry IV built the Tuileries Palace, which is found next to the Louvre, and from here the property kept expanding and changing. Finally, following the French Revolution, the Louvre opened to the public in 1793, obtaining the Venus de Milo, a Greek sculpture that is absolutely breathtaking, and Da Vinci's Mona Lisa in 1797. But as we know, life has a way of throwing us a curveball, and one of these seems to have been Napoleon Bonaparte when he came into power. He looted art from conquered territories and used this to expand the Louvre's collection. He even apparently renamed the museum for a time, calling it Musée Napoleon, and even hung the Mona Lisa in his bedroom so she could be viewed by his eyes only. When visiting the museum, there are many tales from their archives of events that have taken place here over the years. One story from the 17th century tells of some French nobility being connected to a murder plot, and the plot was to destroy their enemies by the use of poisoning and black magic. Another tale describes how Henry II met his end mysteriously during a jousting tournament in the Louvre's courtyard. It seems a lance splintered and penetrated the poor guy. You will also find many fascinating yet dark pieces of art. One of these is the statue of Death from St. Innocent's Cemetery. The cemetery was known to hold mass graves and was popular for this until 1780, when it was shut down. 6 years later, the bones from here were moved to the catacombs. Now, I did an episode on the catacombs a while back, so if you're interested in hearing about them, please check out the link in the description below. Anyway, back to the Louvre. So, as you can imagine, there have been many dark events that have taken place on the grounds of the museum. But many of the pieces that are now shown have their own stories to tell too, and many of those are not for innocent ears either. So the thoughts of spirits lingering the grounds seems not so shocking anymore. Now, one of the spirits thought to be haunting here is nicknamed the Butcher of the Louvre, as during the 16th century, he worked as a torturer and assassin for Queen Catherine de Medici, who ruled from 1547 to 1559. His name was Jean Le Courtier. Sorry for butchering that pronunciation. And he was made for the life of cruelty. He thrived on it. Catherine was known to have a serious interest in the occult, which may have been brought about by her struggling to get pregnant. Back then, this could be construed by people as being a sign of witchcraft, as surely it was unnatural for a woman to struggle getting pregnant. How ignorant they were, for sure. Maybe it was his bloodlust, or possibly Catherine felt that he was a loose cannon who knew too many of her secrets. Either way, she decided the butcher was too dangerous and had him executed. Legend states that the man was killed in the Tuileries garden by a guy named Neuville. It seems his body was left in the garden, but upon return of his killer, his body had vanished. Since then, he's risen from the dead, swearing a curse on the French royals who were to blame for his demise. His spirit has been seen in the gardens where his life ended, dressed in red. He has gained another name, which is the Red Man of the Tuileries. People have described seeing his spirit walking through trees, as well as approaching people and whispering threats to them in underground passageways. Now, the threats part of this story is intriguing, as since his death, his spirit is also thought to be a bad omen, and here are some examples. So, it seems his spirit was seen just before Henry IV was assassinated on 14th of May 1610, then again in 1715 when Louis XIV died of gangrene, just before Louis XVI was executed as a traitor in 1739. His ghost was spotted close by, but the most alarming encounter came from the ladies-in-waiting of Marie Antoinette. It seems that a few days before the Tuileries Palace was stormed in 1792, he showed himself to the ladies, and this is a written account of what was said. Marie Antoinette's women were sitting in the salle de gardes when they became suddenly aware of the presence of a small man, clothed from crown to heel in scarlet, who looked at them with such unearthly eyes that they were frozen with terror. They rushed to the apartments of the Madame la Dauphine and related their adventure. Well, to be fair, he did say he had a grudge against the French royal family, and it seems he wasn't joking. But our butcher is not alone in his afterlife wonderings and grievances. During the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, a young soldier named Pierre was a huge fan of Napoleon Bonaparte, so much so that he stated he wished to see the painting of his idol one last time before he died, and sadly, his wish never came true. Since then, people have witnessed his spirit admiring the painting, dressed in his blue and white uniform. Guests have said he is totally harmless as he is just enjoying the artwork. He will sometimes greet onlookers with a salute or be seen crying quietly, presumably over the defeats of Napoleon. A very famous ghost legend that is attached to the Louvre is the cursed mummy named Belphegor. Now, his story originated from a 1927 crime novel by author Arthur Burnett and was later turned into a TV series and movie. This character helped the mummy's legend grow from strength to strength. He is said to leave his sarcophagus at night and roam the many dark corridors, with guards saying they've heard his footsteps and dark shadows sliding along the floor. But don't be disappointed, as even though this mummy tale may be false, there is another who many believe genuinely haunts the museum. The body is thought to be a man from 305 BCE named the Mummy of Pesheri, and has been seen at the Louvre since 1826. The face of the man is covered by a mask, and many have described an unnerving feeling pass over them suddenly when they visit him, one of dread and anxiety as a presence is felt close by, watching them. What a place to visit. I can't say I'm surprised that ghost stories surround the Louvre. I mean, all that dark history and the exhibits, it sure adds to the charm and creepy factor. Today, many people recognise the museum from the glass and metal pyramid that can be seen at the ground level entrance. Designed by Chinese architect I.M. Pei in 1989, it remains one of the location's most famous and recognisable features, and it is one of 4 pyramids here. The others are significantly smaller. So, what do you think of the history of this fascinating place? Do we feel that it may well be haunted as people believe? Or do you feel that the chilling atmosphere, along with ancient relics and sinister images, might be the real thing that is scaring visitors? My opinion is that, honestly, like I said earlier, there is so much history inside the museum and from different walks of life. The thought that this is all just imagination seems a little hard for me to believe. Have you visited the Louvre? And if so, how was your experience while walking around? Did you feel or see anything you couldn't explain? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving it a thumbs up and even subscribing so that you don't miss out on future haunted locations and mysteries. Until next time, my friends, stay safe out there.